The air in our old family home always carried the faint, musty scent of aged wood and forgotten memories, like the pages of a yellowed book left open too long in a damp room. It was a two-story Victorian house on the outskirts of a small town in upstate New York, where the winters bit hard and the summers hummed with cicadas. I remember the creak of the floorboards under my feet as I paced the living room that fateful evening, the chill seeping through the thin soles of my slippers from the cold hardwood. My name is Emily Harper, and this is the story of how my own brother, the one person I thought I could trust with my life, tried to shatter my world into pieces, making me question my sanity in the cold, unforgiving glare of a courtroom. It started long before that, though, in the tangled roots of our childhood, where love and rivalry twisted together like vines choking a garden. Growing up, the house felt alive with the sounds of our laughter and arguments echoing off the high ceilings. My brother, Jacob, was 2 years older than me, always the golden child with his easy smile and quick wit that charmed everyone from our parents to the neighbors. I can still feel the warmth of the sun filtering through the lace curtains in the kitchen on summer mornings, the sizzle of bacon in the cast-iron skillet filling the air with salty, greasy aromas that made my stomach rumble. Mom would hum old folk tunes as she flipped pancakes, her hands dusted with flour, while Dad read the newspaper at the table, his coffee steaming and bitter-scented. Jacob and I would race to the table, our bare feet slapping against the linoleum, giggling as we fought over the last strip of bacon. But even then, there were shadows. Jacob had a way of turning things to his advantage, like the time he broke Mom's favorite vase, a delicate porcelain thing with hand-painted roses, and blamed it on me. I felt the sharp sting of injustice as tears burned my eyes, the shards crunching underfoot like broken promises, while he stood there with that innocent look, his voice smooth as he said, "Emily must have knocked it over when she was playing." Our parents believed him, of course. He was the reliable one, the one who never caused trouble. As we grew older, the divide deepened. High school brought its own storms. The hallways smelled of chalk dust and teenage sweat, the lockers clanging like distant thunder as students rushed between classes. I was the quiet one, buried in books, feeling the soft weight of pages turning under my fingers in the library's hushed corners, where the air was cool and tinged with the musty odor of old bindings. Jacob, on the other hand, was the star quarterback, his cleats pounding the turf under the Friday night lights, the roar of the crowd vibrating through my chest as I sat in the bleachers, the chill autumn wind whipping my hair. He thrived on the attention, the slaps on the back from teammates, the cheers that smelled of popcorn and victory. But behind closed doors, his jealousy simmered. I remember one night after a big game, the house quiet except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, its pendulum swinging like a heartbeat. Jacob cornered me in my room, the door clicking shut with a finality that made my skin prickle. "You think you're so smart, Emily, with your straight A's and your scholarships," he hissed, his breath hot and sour with beer. "But life's not about books. It's about who comes out on top." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threats, and I felt a cold dread coil in my stomach, the bedsheets rumpled under my clenched fists. Years passed, and life pulled us in different directions. I moved to the city, where the air buzzed with the constant hum of traffic and the sharp tang of exhaust fumes mingling with street vendor hot dogs. My apartment was small, the walls thin enough to hear neighbors' muffled conversations, the radiator hissing steam on winter nights that wrapped me in a blanket of warmth laced with the faint metallic scent of heating pipes. I built a career as a graphic designer, my fingers dancing over the keyboard in a brightly lit office that smelled of fresh coffee and printer ink, the glow of screens casting a blue hue on my face. Jacob stayed closer to home, taking over Dad's hardware store after our parents passed away in a car accident that left a void as vast as the silence in the house without their voices. The funeral was a blur of rain-slicked umbrellas and the earthy smell of wet soil at the graveside, sobs choking the air like fog. We inherited everything equally, or so I thought. But Jacob's resentment had festered, turning into something darker, more calculated. It began with small things after the wool was red. The lawyer's office was stuffy, the leather chairs creaking under our weight, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and old files. "Everything split 50-50, the attorney said, his voice gravelly from years of chain-smoking. Jacob nodded, but I caught the flicker in his eyes, a shadow passing like a cloud over the sun. Soon after, strange occurrences started. I'd visit the family home, feeling the familiar give of the front porch steps under my shoes, the doorknob cool and brass smooth in my hand. But inside, things were off. Drawers I'd left closed were ajar, papers shuffled. Once, I found my childhood diary open on the kitchen table, pages rifled through, the faint scent of Jacob's cologne, spicy and overpowering, lingering like an accusation. "What are you doing with this?" I asked him, my heart pounding, the paper crinkling in my grip. He shrugged, leaning against the counter with a casualness that didn't reach his eyes. "Just reminiscing, sis. No harm in that." But harm was exactly what he intended. The whispers started in town. I'd hear them at the local diner, where the air was greasy with frying eggs and the clink of silverware on plates created a symphony of small-town life. "Poor Emily," someone would murmur, their voice laced with pity. "Heard she's been acting strange since the accident. Talking to herself, forgetting things." My cheeks would burn with humiliation, the coffee turning bitter on my tongue as I forced a smile. Jacob was behind it, spreading rumors like poison ivy creeping through a fence. He even forged notes in my handwriting, leaving them for neighbors to find, rambling letters about seeing ghosts in the house, the ink smudged as if written in haste. I confronted him one stormy afternoon, rain lashing the windows like angry fingers, thunder rumbling deep in my chest. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, my voice trembling, the air electric with tension. He laughed, a cold sound that chilled me more than the draft seeping under the door. "Doing what?" "You're paranoid, Emily. Maybe you need help." The real blow came when he contested the will, claiming I was mentally unfit to manage my share. The courthouse loomed like a stern guardian, its stone steps slick with morning dew, the air inside heavy with the polish of wooden benches and the faint, acrid smell of anxiety from countless trials. My lawyer, a kind man with a voice like warm gravel, patted my shoulder, his hand firm and reassuring. "We'll fight this," he said. But Jacob had prepared well. He presented evidence, doctored medical records, witness statements from paid friends, even a video he'd manipulated to show me wandering the house at night, muttering incoherently. The courtroom was stifling, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like insistent bees, the judge's gavel a sharp crack that echoed in my ears. I sat there, feeling the hardwood of the chair pressing into my back, sweat trickling down my spine, my hands clammy as I gripped the table's edge. Witness after witness took the stand, their footsteps echoing on the marble floor, the oath sworn in voices that ranged from hesitant to confident. One was our old neighbor, Mrs. Wilkins, her perfume floral and overpowering as she leaned into the microphone. "I've seen Emily talking to thin air," she said, her words slicing through me like a knife. "It's heartbreaking, really." My heart raced, a frantic drumbeat, the room spinning slightly as anger and fear warred inside me. Jacob sat across the aisle, his suit crisp, the scent of his aftershave wafting faintly, his expression one of feigned concern, furrowed brow, lips pressed thin. But I knew the truth, I could feel it in the way his eyes avoided mine, the subtle twitch of his jaw. As the trial dragged on, days blending into a haze of arguments and objections, the tension built like a storm cloud ready to burst. I testified, my voice steady at first, describing our childhood, the manipulations, the diary incidents. The air was thick, breaths held collectively, the scratch of the court reporter's pen a constant whisper. But Jacob's lawyer twisted my words, making me sound unstable, his questions sharp as thorns. "Isn't it true you've had episodes of confusion since your parents' death?" he asked, his tone silky. I felt the heat rise in my face, the cool air from the vents doing little to ease it. "No," I replied firmly, but doubt crept in, planted by months of gaslighting. Nights in my hotel room near the courthouse were agony. The sheets were starched and cool against my skin, the hum of the air conditioner a white noise that couldn't drown out my racing thoughts. I'd lie there, staring into the darkness, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing on my chest like a stone. Memories flooded back, the good ones, like Jacob teaching me to ride a bike, his hand steady on the seat, the wind rushing past with the scent of fresh-cut grass, and the bad, like the time he stole my college savings for a failed business venture, promising to pay it back with interest that never came. The turning point came when I discovered his secret. Rifling through old boxes in the attic during a break in the trial, the air dusty and thick with the smell of mothballs and aged paper, my fingers brushed against a hidden envelope. Inside were letters, real ones this time, from Jacob to a lawyer, not ours, detailing his plan to declare me incompetent, to seize the entire estate for a development deal that would turn our family land into condos. The paper was crisp, the ink bold, and as I read, a fire ignited in my veins, hot and righteous. I could hear the distant rumble of traffic outside, the patter of rain on the roof, but inside, clarity sharpened everything. Back in court, I presented the evidence, my lawyer's voice booming as he laid it out. The room tensed, whispers rippling like waves, the judge's expression shifting from neutral to stern. Jacob's face paled, the color draining like water from a sink, his hands fidgeting with a pen that clicked nervously. "This changes everything," the judge intoned, his words heavy in the air. Apologies came too late, the damage was done, but so was his scheme. In the end, justice prevailed, but the scars remained. Walking out of the courthouse into the crisp autumn air, leaves crunching underfoot with their earthy scent, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Jacob slunk away, his footsteps fading, our bond severed like a frayed rope. Not everything is what it seems, but in the light of truth, even the deepest betrayals can lead to healing. That was just the beginning of how it all unfolded, but there's more to tell, the intricate web of lies, the emotional roller coaster, the path to forgiveness or perhaps not. Let me take you deeper into the moments that shaped us. Returning to the family home after the funeral felt like stepping into a ghost town of memories. The door creaked open with a sigh, the air stale and heavy with the lingering scent of Mom's lavender potpourri, now faded to a whisper. I wandered the rooms, my fingers trailing over the dusty furniture, feeling the smooth grain of the oak dining table where we'd shared so many meals. Laughter echoed in my mind, ghostly and warm, mixed with the sharp pang of loss. Jacob was there too, his presence like a shadow, moving through the house with purposeful strides, the thud of his boots on the floor a constant reminder. We sorted through belongings that first week, the attic a treasure trove of forgotten items. Boxes crinkled as we opened them, releasing puffs of dust that tickled my nose and made me sneeze. Old photo albums with their sticky pages revealed snapshots of happier times, us as kids on the beach, sand gritty between our toes, the salt air tangy and invigorating, waves crashing with a rhythmic roar. "Remember this?" I asked, holding up a picture, my voice soft with nostalgia. Jacob glanced over, his eyes hardening for a split second before he forced a smile. "Yeah, good times," he muttered, but his tone was flat, like soda gone stale. It was during these sessions that I first noticed the discrepancies in the will's inventory. Dad's collection of antique watches, their ticks faint but steady, was missing a few pieces. The safe in the study, its metal door cool to the touch, held less cash than expected. "Where's the Rolex?" I questioned, the air in the room growing tense, the grandfather clock's chime marking the hour like a judge's gavel. Jacob shrugged, his shoulders tight. "Must have been sold. Dad mentioned something about debts." But his eyes darted away, and I felt a chill, unrelated to the draft from the window. The rumors escalated from there. At the grocery store, the fluorescent lights harsh and buzzing, the air conditioned to a crisp coolness that raised goosebumps on my arms, cashiers would give me sympathetic looks. "Heard about your troubles," one said, her voice hushed as she bagged my items, the plastic crinkling. "If you need to talk." I forced a laugh, but it rang hollow, my heart squeezing with confusion. Jacob had been busy, weaving his narrative in coffee shops and barbershops, where the scent of brewed beans and aftershave mingled with gossip. One evening, I confronted him in the backyard, the grass damp with dew under my feet, the night air alive with crickets chirping and the distant hoot of an owl. Fireflies danced like tiny lanterns, their glow soft and ethereal. "Stop spreading lies," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. He turned, the moonlight casting sharp shadows on his face, his breath visible in the cooling air. "Lies? Emily, you're the one losing it. I saw you arguing with no one in the mirror last night." His words hit like a slap, the lie so bold it stole my breath. I'd been alone, practicing a speech for work, but he twisted it, his voice dripping with false concern. "The court battle loomed, and preparation was grueling. My lawyer's office smelled of leather-bound books and strong coffee, the desk lamp casting a warm pool of light that contrasted the storm brewing outside. Rain pelted the windows, a steady drum that matched my pulsing headache. We pored over documents, paper rustling, highlighters squeaking as we marked key points. "He's building a case on gaslighting," my lawyer explained, his fingers tapping the desk. "We need counter-evidence." I nodded, feeling the weight of it all, the air thick with determination. In court, the drama unfolded scene by scene. The bailiff's voice boomed, "All rise," the shuffle of feet and rustle of clothes filling the room. Witnesses spoke, their voices echoing, emotions raw. One friend of Jacob's, a burly man with a beard that scratched audibly when he rubbed it, testified to seeing me act erratically at a family gathering. The barbecue smoke had been thick that day, meat sizzling on the grill, laughter mingling with the clink of beer bottles. But his account was fabricated, and as he spoke, I felt anger bubble like boiling water. My turn on the stand was nerve-wracking. The wood of the witness box was smooth under my palms, the microphone amplifying my breathing. I recounted events, voice clear, but Jacob's stares bored into me, cold as ice. The cross-examination was brutal, questions flying like arrows, the lawyer's cologne cloying in the close space. Discovery of the letters changed everything. In the attic, cobwebs brushing my face like ghostly fingers, the envelope seal gave way with a soft tear. Reading them, my blood ran cold, then hot with fury. Presenting them in court, the gasp from the gallery was collective, the air charged. Victory was bittersweet. Outside, the sun warmed my skin, birds chirping joyfully, but inside, the betrayal lingered like a bruise. Yet, to truly understand how deep the deception went, I need to take you back further, to the seeds planted in our adolescence, when the first cracks appeared in our sibling bond. It was the summer I turned 15, the air thick with humidity that made clothes cling to skin like a second layer, the scent of blooming jasmine from Mom's garden sweet and heady. Jacob was 17, on the cusp of adulthood, his voice deepening, his frame filling out from hours at the gym where the clang of weights and grunts of effort filled the sweaty air. That summer, we spent weeks at our grandparents' lake house in the Adirondacks, the water lapping gently against the dock with a soothing rhythm, the pine trees releasing a fresh, resinous aroma that cleared the mind. Mornings were crisp, the mist rising off the lake like steam from a hot cup, the chill raising shivers until the sun burned it away. We'd fish from the boat, the line whirring as it cast, the splash distant and promising. Jacob always caught more, his hooks baited with precision, the tug on the line making him whoop with triumph, the fish flapping wetly on the deck. But one afternoon, storm clouds gathered, dark and ominous, the air heavy with the metallic scent of impending rain. We were out on the water when the wind picked up, whipping waves into froth, the boat rocking precariously. Jacob was at the helm, his hands gripping the wheel, knuckles white. "We need to head back," I shouted over the howl, fear knotting my stomach, the spray cold on my face. He nodded, but then, inexplicably, he turned the boat farther out. Panic rose, the thunder cracking like whips, lightning illuminating his face in stark flashes. "What are you doing?" I cried, clutching the rail, wood splintering slightly under my nails. Later, he claimed it was a mistake, that the storm disoriented him. But as we finally made it to shore, soaked and shivering, the rain pounding like drums, I saw the glint in his eye, satisfaction. We huddled in the cabin, towels rough against skin, hot cocoa steaming with marshmallow sweetness. Granddad patted Jacob's back. "Good job getting us home, son." I said nothing, but doubt took root, watered by that moment. Back home, school resumed, the halls echoing with lockers slamming and chatter, the air scented with chalk and teenage perfumes. Jacob's popularity soared, but he began isolating me, spreading whispers that I was weird, obsessed with books instead of people. Friends drifted away, their laughter fading, leaving me in the cafeteria with the clatter of trays and the isolation heavy as fog. When I won a scholarship to college, the announcement at dinner was met with cheers, but Jacob's clap was slow, his smile tight. That night, in my room, the lamps glow soft, I found my acceptance letter torn, pieces scattered like confetti. "Accident," he said the next day, but the lie hung thick. Adulthood amplified it. I thrived in the city, my apartment's buzzer harsh, the elevator humming upward. Jacob struggled, the store's bell jingling with fewer customers, the air inside dusty with unsold tools. Parents' death hit hard. The hospital smelled of antiseptic, beeps incessant, their hands cold in mine. After, Jacob's greed surfaced. He hid assets, the safe's click revealing empty compartments. The gaslighting intensified. Phone calls at night, heavy breathing, then hang-ups. Items moved, keys lost, found in odd places. I'd wake to creaks, heart pounding, shadows dancing from moonlight through curtains. Town folk pitied me. At the bakery, fresh bread warm and yeasty, the owner whispered, "Jacob says you're not well." Anger flared, fists clenching. Court prep involved detectives, their offices smoky, coffee bitter. We uncovered forgeries, ink analysis revealing mismatches. In trial, revelations piled. A hidden affair Jacob had, draining funds. The mistress testified, voice trembling, perfume light. The judge's ruling echoed, relief washing over me like warm rain. But healing? Slow. I sold my share, moved on, the wind of change fresh. Diving even deeper, let's explore the emotional undercurrents that fueled Jacob's betrayal, the hidden resentments that simmered beneath the surface like a pot about to boil over. It all traced back to our father's favoritism, subtle but pervasive, like the faint hum of a refrigerator you only notice when it's silent. Dad, with his calloused hands from years at the hardware store, where the air was sharp with metal and oil, always praised Jacob's athletic prowess, the trophies gleaming on the mantel with their metallic tang when dusted. "That's my boy," he'd say, clapping Jacob's shoulder, the sound firm and proud, while my academic achievements earned a nod, "A good job, kid," that felt lukewarm in comparison. I felt it keenly as a child, the sting like a paper cut, unexpected and sharp. In the living room, the fireplace crackling with smoke curling up the chimney, family game nights turned competitive. Monopoly boards clattered with dice rolls, the scent of popcorn buttery and inviting. Jacob always won, his strategy ruthless, bankrupting me with glee, while Dad chuckled approvingly. "He's got a head for business." My losses were dismissed, the paper money crinkling in defeat, tears prickling my eyes in the dim lamplight. Mom balanced it, her hugs warm, scented with vanilla from baking, her voice soft in my ear. "You're special too, Emily." But the imbalance grew. When Jacob wrecked the family car at 18, the metal crumpled, oil leaking acrid on the pavement, Dad covered it, the insurance papers rustling. If it had been me, lectures would have followed, the air thick with disappointment. This bred Jacob's entitlement, a belief that he deserved more, his ego inflating like a balloon. In college, I worked part-time at a cafe, the espresso machine hissing steam, grounds aromatic and rich, saving every penny. Jacob partied, calls home slurred, the phone line crackling with static, begging for money that Dad sent without question. After graduation, my job in the city brought independence, the subway rumbling beneath feet, crowds pressing with body heat and varied perfumes. Jacob floundered, failed ventures leaving him bitter, the bar's dim lights and stale beer smells his refuge. Parents' accident, a slick road, tires screeching, metal twisting, left us orphans. The will's reading, in that stuffy office, sparked his plan. He saw my stability as a threat, my half as undeserved. The manipulations were masterful. He hacked my email, though I didn't know then, the clicks of my keyboard betrayed. Sent rambling messages to friends, their replies concerned, screens glowing in the night. He staged incidents. One night, home visiting, the power cut, darkness absolute, footsteps creeping. A figure in the hall, breath close, him, whispering nonsense to scare me. I screamed, voice raw, lights flickering back to reveal nothing. Doctor visits he arranged, for my health, the waiting room sterile, magazines rustling. Prescriptions for anxiety, pills rattling in bottles, which I refused. In court, his performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears welling, voice cracking, "I love my sister, but she needs help." The jury shifted, chairs creaking, sympathy palpable. But truth emerged. My investigator, trench coat damp from rain, unearthed bank transfers, papers crisp with proof of embezzlement. The climax, Jacob on stand, sweat beading, cologne failing to mask fear. Under questioning, lies crumbled, voice faltering. Verdict day, tension electric, the foreman's voice steady, we find for the plaintiff. Relief flooded, tears hot on cheeks. Aftermath, Jacob disgraced, town whispers now against him. I rebuilt, the sun's warmth on skin a promise. To fully immerse you in the aftermath and the long road to closure, I must describe the weeks following the trial, when the dust settled but the emotional debris remained scattered like leaves after a gale. The town felt different, the main street sidewalks cracked and familiar under my shoes, the air carrying the scent of fresh bread from the bakery and exhaust from passing cars. People nodded at me now with respect, their voices warm, glad it's over, Emily, but the pity lingered, a subtle undercurrent that made my skin itch. I returned to the family home one last time to pack, the key turning with a click that echoed in the empty hall, the air still and heavy with absence. Boxes taped shut with a raspy sound, items wrapped in newspaper that inked my fingers black. Each room held echoes, the kitchen with its lingering spice scents from Mom's cooking, the study where Dad's pipe tobacco faintly clung to the curtains. Upstairs, Jacob's room was bare, his belongings gone in haste, the mattress sagging, dust motes dancing in sunlight slanting through windows. A letter waited on my bed, envelope crisp, his handwriting slanted. I'm sorry, it read, but the words felt hollow, ink dry as old bones. Anger surged, paper crumpling in my fist, the crinkle loud in the quiet. Selling the house was bittersweet. The realtor's perfume cloying, her heels clicking on floors, great potential, she said. Signing papers, pen scratching, the lawyer's office warm with central heat. Moving to a new city, the apartment fresh painted, scent sharp and clean, boxes thudding as unpacked. New job, office buzzing with keyboards and chatter, coffee perking. Therapy helped, the counselor's room soft-lit, couch plush, her voice gentle. Betrayal cuts deep, she said, tissues soft in hand as tears fell. Years later, a call, Jacob, voice broken, seeking reconciliation. Cafe meeting, steam rising from mugs, aroma rich. I was wrong, he admitted, eyes downcast. Forgiveness tentative, like fragile ice. Life moved on, scars fading, but lessons etched deep.